Welcome everyone to MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, and joining me once again is Allison.
So say we all.
This is going to be our review of Battlestar Galactica Season 1, Episode 1. We're on to the show now. The episode is called 33, so full spoilers for the episode as always. And the premise of this one is very simple and very memorable. Like, I can't tell you in advance what the plot of a lot of the other standalone episodes are, but I could have told you like, without thinking about it. The episode 1 is every 33 minutes the Cylons show up, and how are they doing that? And everyone's exhausted from continuing to having to run and do other jumps every 33 minutes. That's the premise. Yeah. It's simple, it's tense, it's effective. What did you think watching this one again?
Yeah, like you said, we talked about it a little bit last time. I did remember the premise. I didn't remember all the details, of course. But you get so into it with them, and don't you start thinking about, oh my God, how would I stay awake? Or how would I sleep for 20 minutes at a time and be able to, go back out in fighting form the way the Viper pilots are? And that's addressed at some point in the episode. But it's incredibly tense. You absolutely feel for the survivors, and you like really wonder what's going to happen. And obviously, it's the first episode. It's going to be a series, so this can't go on forever. But when they're starting, I think it's about 5 days straight they've been doing this. It's crazy.
Yeah, it comes up saying like 130 hours without sleep, give or take, which, it's somewhat relatable. And I say somewhat because we've all been tired. We've all had to stay up a little bit extra than we want to because we didn't sleep well the night before or something. Very few people have stayed up for 5 days straight, though, so you can only imagine how much worse it is when it's been 5 days. I'm sure the adrenaline of it being life or death the entire time does help for a while, but as they bring up in this episode, human beings will have a breaking point. Like, there's a point where we're just going to shut down and not be able to function anymore, and that's where we're kind of like, we're on the brink with that with a lot of the characters in this episode, so... no, it's incredibly tense. I did remember the solution to this as well. That was the other thing. I remembered the premise, and I remembered kind of what the solution ultimately was, is that there's this one ship that clearly is ultimately... I didn't remember how it became suspicious. Obviously, we discovered that as I rewatched it, but... I remembered, no, there's one ship that they're going to have to destroy because clearly that's the one the Cylons are tracking, or they've infiltrated it, or they've done whatever to it.
Or there's something, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I like that that's left open to be a mystery, because ultimately, by the end of the episode, when they do have to, like, shoot this ship down and destroy it, because they're just not responding anymore, and, not only might it be leading the Cylons to them every 33 minutes, they've also got nukes aboard they've discovered via, taking some readings. I love the eeriness of, like, Apollo trying to see in the windows to see if any of these, like, 1,300 civilians that are supposed to be in that ship are actually there, and he can't see anyone.
And it's a civilian ship. It's not a military ship, which you might expect to have weapons on board. It's a civilian ship. It's not supposed to have nukes on board.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah, but Apollo looks in the windows and he's trying to see if there's anyone there, and you can't see anyone, which doesn't mean that they're not there. But it does leave it open to this sort of era of mystery of, like, oh, this could effectively be like a ghost ship with, like, one Cylon pilot in it, and that's all it is. Or it could be full of people who are all, like, hostages, like, tied up in the lower decks or whatever it is, but no one's in the window. So there's kind of an eerie quality, and so they still have this guilt of having to shoot it down, like Starbucks saying, really, we can't do this. I mean, she ultimately... joins in and, like, follows the order, but she's not feeling pretty good about it right before the moment it comes. So I really like the mystique, I guess is the word I'll use, of, like, was there people on that ship, and it adds a little bit of extra kind of that I don't know, atmosphere to everything, particularly in that last, like, 10-15 minutes of the episode, which I really enjoy. So really good stuff, and that's before we get into all the way this ship actually ties to Baltar, which is kind of his subplot for the episode. There's someone on that ship that apparently has information that proves
really important information.
Yes, that proves there was
to talk to Rosalind.
There was a traitor in the midst. Someone is a traitor and helped the Cylons with their initial attack on the colonies, and of course, as soon as Baltar overhears this, which some of my favorite acting in this episode is Baltar, like looking over and pretending to read as he's listening intently to what Rosalind and Billy are saying. Like, what's this now? Really good little moments there, especially when like they ask him a question and then Imaginary Six also asks him a question, and the answer to both is yes. And I love that he's clearly saying yes to Six first, but he kind of repeats it a couple times, like, yes, I'm saying yes to you two. Yes, of course I'm talking to you two. You're in the room with me. Who else would I be talking to? I'm not crazy. Anyway, this doctor might be important.
Yes, or even some of his other conversations with Six that he has to, when people start looking at it, he kind of has to try to slide it into sounding somewhat like a normal conversation. Is always very entertaining. Because in this episode, we see the Six and Baltar not only on the ship, but sort of a fantasy scape, probably a fevered dream in between these 33-minute jumps of his house back on Capra. So part of these conversations seemingly take place in another location. Not really, it's all in his head, but it's part of his distraction.
Well, yeah, it's kind of jumping between like him talking to an imaginary person in front of him to then just having like a dream conversation in his head. It was certainly how I was reading it. Every time it went into his head and we were in his apartment back on Earth, or not, sorry, definitely not Earth, Caprica.
Definitely not Earth. They haven't found Earth yet. That won't happen for a bit, if it happens ever.
Yes.
No spoilers.
But like we're back in his house, and sexy times with Six again, and they even they're throwing jokes around like. Like we're going to come and get you in 33 minutes and we're going to kill you all, and he's like, yeah, but not for 33 minutes, take your clothes off. Like that's basically the dream sequence he's having, which it did occur to me, like, there's no reason why Baltar needs to be awake for these jumps. Like, what's he doing to help with all this? He can just have a nap. The
degree to which things get frantic, announcements are going on the ship, probably disrupts that.
It depends if you're a heavy sleeper. I feel like some people, especially after 5 straight days, will just be like, you know what, I'm not the one piloting these ships. I'm not the one doing the military stuff. I can just go for a snooze. I'll just sleep through it and hope there's a ship to wake up in on the other end. But I mean, yeah, I think all that Baltar stuff's fun, and the way it ties into the ship with the this person who has information that, and we don't. That's the thing. He doesn't even know, and we don't even know if it's definitely about Baltar, but he just assumes that it is, right? Because it makes sense that it would be, because he does feel like he's the traitor who. Because
Baltar worked with that guy at the Department of Defense, of all places.
Yeah. So again, we don't know for sure, but he makes this leaping, assumptions, and maybe he's right. But he starts worrying, and Six is like, well, this is a problem for you. You better do something about this. And then, of course, when that ship doesn't accompany the fleet in one of their jumps, and it's like, okay, I guess we left that behind, and everyone's all sad about it. But then it shows up late, and once that happens, it's like, okay, start the clock again, because that's when Adama starts thinking. And even some of the others, Baltar jumps up and says, "Oh, that ship! We must destroy it." And conveniently, that's the one that the doctor who has this serious information about a possible traitor is on. It's almost like, oh, this is what Six says. This is divine intervention. God's looking out for you. And then when Baltar says that he doesn't believe that, it starts to come into doubt that maybe this doctor will still show up and he still may be able to testify or give his information. And notably, when it's counting down at the end, and Rosalind and Adama are sort of saying, "Hey, we need to shoot this ship down," and they're taking it very seriously. Rosalind's hesitating because she doesn't want to order the death of possibly 1,300 people. It's notably right after Baltar turns to Six and says, "Okay, I believe, I repent, I believe in the God helping me." It's right after that, it cuts to Rosalind, she says, "Do it." So even though I don't think we necessarily have to say that there is a correlation there, I think the show is presenting it as, it did kind of look like, until he accepted that God was helping him, that's when the decision was made to actually destroy the ship and therefore clear his slate. And this threat to his survival and secrecy has been eradicated. So again, it's playing with that fine line that it was even doing in the miniseries of is this some divine thing helping out Baltar, or is this just cosmic coincidence and whatnot?
Yes, and very notably, and I guess I had forgotten that the heavy lore dumps start this early, but six in Baltar's mind is very much emphasizing that this is God's will. You're going to get punished unless you, say you're faithful, and unless you, repent your sins, etc., etc. And Baltar sort of poo-poos that, and you kind of have to start thinking, wait a second, these robot Cylon models that look human believe in a god? Like, isn't that kind of a weird premise? But she is absolutely adamant about the faith that she seems to believe in. Uh, to me, it's a very interesting question, because what made the Cylons believe in a divine intervention or a deity or...
Yeah, I mean, they haven't got into this too much yet, but it is maybe perhaps notable that she keeps referring to a singular god, but the few times we hear the humans refer to gods in this show, they say it in plural. So they haven't really went into that too much yet, so I don't want to talk about it too much here, but like I did notice that in this episode. She's saying God, but in another part of the episode, someone says, oh, praise the gods, and then someone else says, gods have got nothing to do with this. So just a little thing to notice there.
One other time this sort of comes up is when the Olympic carrier, that's the name of the ship, is initially lost. I think it's Ty asks Duella how many people on board, and she says 1,300, however many souls. She doesn't say people, she says souls, which I think is also very reflective of religious faith. But also very well worth noting is that we see for the first time here that Rosalind's keeping a population count on a little whiteboard in her line of sight on Colonial One. By the end of the episode, about 48,000 people remain in the Colonial fleet.
Yeah, but notably it was over 50,000 at the start, so it's a big deal when they have to rub off a few numbers, and then they lose that ship, so it's a big deal taking off 1,300, and then the sort of happy ending to the episode is that they're getting to add one number to it because someone was born in one of the ships, so
baby was born.
That gives you your happy little bit. On the Souls comment, though, I mean, I do agree that was chosen very intentionally by the writers. But it is something I've heard before from other military ships. This idea of talking about souls on boats and planes is something that is said. It's not like something they've just come up with. But I do agree that they've chosen it specifically.
No, I didn't mean to imply that it was. It's just what to me seems a very deliberate word choice that I thought was worth noting.
No, I think what was interesting to me about that scene, though, is that like Dee is kind of getting the brunt of the fault for this, like, because when they make the jump and she's the one saying, okay, all civilian ships accounted for, she's like, oh no, wait, scratch that, there's one missing. And Ty kind of gets on her plate a little bit about like, well, did you like check them all before we jumped? Like, was that one checked in? And she kind of looks and says, no, that one was missing. And they kind of grill her for it, and it's kind of this thing where it's like, okay, it's understandable, we've been awake for 150 hours, but we can't make mistakes. We make mistakes and people die. Now, obviously the rest of the episode kind of puts a different context on why that ship is acting funky. Sure. But in the moment, it is kind of interesting to see how the different characters react to it, where Ty's more of a sort of direct dick about it, but it's not like Adama disagrees with him. Adama still ultimately makes the same point. He's just a little bit more, I don't know, like professional and regal about it, as opposed to Ty's grill. I mean, as they even say in their little joke conversation at one point, when things calm down, if the EXO's not doing his, if people don't hate the EXO, then the EXO's not doing his job, is a line he has at one point.
That's what Ty claims.
Oh, yeah.
He says that's his job. I don't know that Adama entirely agrees with that.
I'm not saying that's true, but that's how he looks at it, is he's there to be the bad guy and make Adama look good. To which Adama responds, I always look good, which I thought was a funny response to that.
That was a good thing. I do also want to note, though, earlier in the episode, there's some kind of station set up. People have posted pictures all over the place of those who are lost or missing. And Dee was looking for some survivors from, I think, Sagittarian. So she was trying to presumably find out about family or friends who were missing. So not, she has an important military position. She's doing her job. But we do get that little bit of human insight that she's probably lost people too. And I think it just makes it resonate all the more. that she does feel a sense of responsibility. And
Obviously, that is her home world, and that's her introduction to this hallway of photographs of people just posting their loved ones who they've, they're hoping might be on the other ships, but honestly, like, I would imagine 99.999% of the people that are on these walls are not on the other ships. These are people who were on the planets in some way or another and have died. And, we do see this wall again later in the show. It's something we come back to as a reminder, here and there. So I think it's a good visual to set up. And I think her, like, seeing how many, because I think she's told to go put the photos up on the wall, and she's not seen it yet. And it's notable that she's on her own in a quiet hallway looking at all these photos and just kind of getting the realization, oh, like, everyone's lost several people. Like, I'm not unique in this at all. This is, everyone's feeling this way. So it really hits you kind of the impact of, what happened in the miniseries and kind of kept that going. Actually, speaking of the miniseries and going over to the show proper now, I'm curious, did you get the US or the UK intro sequence for this? Because I got the UK one.
I honestly don't know how I would know the difference. I'm sorry.
It's different music. So basically, the one that we got here is this one that's going to be the same for the rest of the show, because the US changed to the UK one after season 1. So you'll know definitively when we get to season 2 if it changes, then you had the US one, and if it doesn't, then you always had the UK one. Like, after the opening title music, they do the little sort of like teaser montage of the rest of the episode. I wanted to talk about this because I never liked this back when I first watched this show. And what's interesting is now, because I'm rewatching it, I don't necessarily have to worry about the spoilers per se, because I've seen it before. But I chose to pay attention to it this time, because I wanted to see if it's, like, do I consider anything that's popping up in here a spoiler? And to be honest, I did. Like, there was a couple of quick snippets where I'm like, oh yeah, if I was watching this for the first time, I would wish I hadn't seen that little moment. So I actually recommend to anyone watching this for the first time, when it gets to the end of the actual opening titles and it goes to the quick little, like, montage with the drum beats as it's showing you the upcoming episode, I would look away. Don't pay attention to it, because it does ruin moments from later in the episode. Well, we have to talk about some other stuff. We have to talk about Hilo, for example. We actually come back to him on Caprica, because we didn't get him at all in the second part of the miniseries, which is actually one of the details that I was surprised by when we watched that second part, is that I kind of just assumed we saw him running around on the planet, because I remembered, that's something we see, generally after he's left there. But they didn't actually come back to him until this first episode. And we see him surviving, taking radiation meds, running from robot Cylons, and then ultimately, kind of what it builds up to.
I did remember we didn't see him to the series proper, but I also have some behind the scenes information about this that's a bit interesting. Did you know that Katie Sackhoff has a podcast now?
I'm not surprised. I feel like a lot of actors who were on TV shows in this era have podcasts now.
So because I knew we were going to be doing it, I haven't been watching full episodes, but I did see a clip where she was talking to the actor who plays Hilo, whose name is, I believe, Tamo Penniket. I may not be saying it quite right. He was not expecting to come back to BSG either. And he was auditioning for pilots for the next TV season. And suddenly got a call from, I think, Ronald Moore, really unexpectedly, and he said, look, people seem to really respond to Hilo, so we've got this idea. If you'd want to come back, we don't have a ton of money for you, but we'll figure something out, and he was like, I got a job, and he was happy to do it. And we see, he was a really likable character in the one part of the miniseries we saw him in, and apparently people liked him enough that they decided it was worth it to. And they develop a very interesting plot with him that was one of my favorite parts of the original show, I would definitely say. When I watched it originally, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, he survives a couple of robot Cylons, but then
takes one out.
Takes a couple out, because he has like a mine set up that he blows up and takes a bunch of them out. Later on in the episode, he is confronted with a Six, who comes up and basically does her shtick from the miniseries, which is like, "Are you alive?" and kisses him. But the reason for this
made me wonder if she was the same Six that we saw at the Armistice station. She asked him the same question, "Are you real?" as she asked the human officer at the Armistice station. So it made me wonder if it was like meant to be that same sex.
Well, it's definitely not the same body, because that body from the
No,
miniseries
of course
definitely blew
not,
up.
but the same soul, so to speak.
But I mean, this is getting into a bigger question, I suppose. But aren't all Sixies the same six?
Well, no, because it was explained in the first episode that in the first part of the miniseries, doesn't the six on Capra tell Baltar that her consciousness will, it doesn't matter if the body dies, her consciousness will be uploaded and put into a new body. So doesn't that imply that there are separate consciousnesses?
I mean, it maybe does, but I mean, I don't remember any evidence of any six acting differently from any other six. And maybe this is me bringing in some, like, hindsight from the rest of the show. But
there's definitely evidence of at least one six acting differently.
Okay,
and there's definitely evidence of Sharon's acting differently.
Yes, no, I agree with that. I mean, that's getting slightly into spoiler territory. Right now, there definitely is different versions of some of them. I just don't remember specifically any version of Six notably acting differently. But I mean, I might not be remembering something. But I mean, again, it could be the same Six. I don't know. I mean, ultimately, it doesn't really matter because like the whole thing's just a setup for another Sharon who they've got planked there to pretend to be there to save Hilo, because this Six gets shot.
Pretend to be Boomer, but for now we're gonna call the Sharon with the fleet is Boomer, and this Sharon on the planet we'll just call her Sharon.
Yes. So Sharon shoots this Six in the back, and it looks like she's saved Hilo from this, Cylon, seductress or whatever you want to call her. And he goes off hobbling off with her, and he's happy to see her because this is, a friendly face. But then, of course, we see another Six and some Cylon robots come out from the trees looking menacing, like, aha, all's going to plan. Like, our maniacal, machinations are all in motion. So they're playing him. They're playing him right now.
Let's see what happens.
For some reason. Yeah. We don't know what their end goal is here, but they're clearly tricking him for some reason. So that is what they've set up there. Interestingly, though, sticking with just Sharon as a theme here, I think it is interesting that in all of her scenes, Boomer's scenes back in the Galactica and in the Raptor, is that she's got a new co-pilot now, who played by Sam Witwer, who I was surprised to see because he's got a recognizable face from later on. Like, I don't think I knew who he was at the time, but she's been, she's a little bit short-tempered with him. But he said, hey, have you heard? Like, Cylons can like humans. Apparently, we left someone behind on that. He's talking about the character at the end of the miniseries. And she's like, oh, shut up. I don't want to hear about it.
Doral, the guy who was the tour guide originally.
She's saying, shut up. I don't want to hear about it. And then later on in the episode, when she's saying she's not that tired as everyone else, Starbuck just jokes and says, oh, that's because you're a Cylon. And she's like, I'll come over there and kick your ass. And it's just a joke, and it's just played for, friendly banter. Yeah. But it's like two little foreshadowing things that they're intentionally bringing this up with Sharon, with Boomer in front of the audience in a couple of different scenes to kind of poke at it and be like, hey, think about this. Think about the irony here before we get to later events. So I was noticing that as well.
His position is ECO. And he Boomer kind of denies that she has a new ECO. And I don't know if they even said it in the episode, but he's credited as his call sign is Crash Down, which does not really sound like the best call sign to have or reputation to have. But I agree. I remembered him being in the show later. I certainly did not remember him showing up in episode 1. I'm not sure 100% if he's playing the same character later or if this is just a coincidence that he had a guest role in this episode and then he comes back later. But we'll know when we get there.
I don't remember him at all in the show, so I was just surprised to see him, period. But
I definitely remember him showing up later in the show. He's definitely in later episodes.
Okay. I mean, otherwise, there's some more friendship stuff between Apollo and Starbuck, and just simple, like, hey, you're the CAG now, you're supposed to...
Really good character interaction there.
Yeah, she's like, you're the CAG now, you're supposed to be slapping the smile off my face and telling me to do my job, and they just end up kind of laughing it off, but it's a nice little...
Bursting out laughing, but it shows the strength of their relationship, and also that there is really a mutual respect there. But there's this whole thing where Ty orders them all to take like stimulants, stims they call them, and she doesn't want to because she says it actually dulls your reaction time. But eventually they just really don't have a choice, and she agrees, and there's at some point there's a patrol where they're all, taking these drugs. That I felt like was kind of dropped. I wanted a little more with that because it was made such an issue of earlier on in the episode. There wasn't really a particular resolution to it.
No, I don't think. I think that almost made me think the start of that conversation that ended up with the laugh between them when she was saying, "Hey, you're supposed to like boss me around." The start of that scene made it feel like it was going to be a plot point that these stims are going to maybe get in the way of them actually being good at their jobs. I think ultimately though that's not what the point of it was. It was more just like to set up this friendship bit, and then it never really was a factor for the rest of the episode. Really, I think they mentioned that the reason why they're on the first patrol once they stop jumping is because they're the ones that are on stims, so that everyone else can get a rest first. But that's like a minor detail. It doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, it was made such a big deal of. I was expecting a little more to the resolution. I can't remember if it maybe is something that will show up again later, so maybe we'll hear more about this.
I don't recall that it really coming up later, because I don't think there's a period in the rest of the show where they have to stay up for 150 hours. I could be wrong, but I don't remember that being like a specific situation again.
People don't always take substances for reasons that are
true.
medically implied or necessary.
Yeah, okay. We might do a plot like that later, but that's obviously getting into addiction territory and talking about other things. But
right, we have Ty for that now, so
we have Ty for that.
Well, he's an alcoholic. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. No, you're right. I mean, that's the thing, though. He points out that like Adama says it's great seeing you without the cup because it sounds like having a war to fight, having like a military purpose to exist is actually giving him
a purpose. Yeah.
He's so focused on that he doesn't need to like drown his sorrows anymore. So, but it's an interesting character bit that he's thriving whilst everyone else is having the most miserable time of their entire life. He's like, oh, finally, it's like a I'm a colonel again. This is exciting stuff.
Yeah, there was also a bit between Ty and Adama in between a couple of the jumps where they're taking turns, taking 10 minutes of rest, 10 minutes off in that 33-minute interval. And Ty lets Adama go like 2 in a row because he's so tired. I thought it was funny, though, that even Ty refers to Adama as the old man. It seems more appropriate when the younger pilots do it, but for him to do it, I don't know. I thought it was cute.
Yeah, I don't think it's a literal thing. I think it's just that's just the nickname for the guy in charge. Like, because Ty, I don't think he necessarily is, but he could even be a little older than Adama is. But he'd still call him the old man. Yeah. You know, it's just like it means that, and just that. So, but anyway, I mean that's episode 1 of Battlestar Galactica. I think all the major beats. Obviously some characters have smaller roles in this one. Not every character is going to get a chance to flourish, but I did like some little details right at the start of the episode, like the timer clock. They'd actually put a little sticker that said 33 at the 33-minute mark, just so it was obvious where to spin it to every time. Just little details like that really told you that this has been a thing that's been ongoing. Beyond just what they say and what they do. Like there's visual things in the set design and props and stuff like that to sort of help tell the story, which is nice.
Yeah, they've done it like 230 something times, leading up being like that 5 days or that 150 whatever hours. We do see Tiro and the deck crew in between some of these other moments.
Mm-hmm.
Not much to really report on there, just some, banter about they're intensely trying to care for the Vipers in between these 33-minute intervals to keep them flying so that the fleet has defenses as much as is possible.
So they're also exhausted. I mean, that's really what their stuff is for. It's just sort of further given this idea of everyone at every single level here is exhausted because they've all been at it for 150 hours and they need to sleep. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It builds the tension, makes it feel like they're on edge, and it feels like a genuine release when they don't have to do it for a little bit later on in the episode. So, no, I mean, they've solved this problem by the end of this episode, which means there'll be a whole new...
Now on to the next problem.
Yeah, a whole new problem to solve next time, so we'll see... see what that is. But this has been our discussion of Battlestar Galactica Episode 1. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, if you want to support the channel and all the reviews and content, you can do that over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Check out the movie channel for the movie podcast. But that is us, so thank you once again. We'll see you next time. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?